as well as founder of AVET Project. And alongside me, as always,
I'm Glenn McGuffey, manager of your Brevard County Veteran Services team, and I'm also retired from the Air Force, so a couple flyboys coming at you today, and I think we're going to talk to one of our brothers from one of the other branches today and get you some even more good information about the never world of if and or but veterans benefits.
Yeah. And with that, let us introduce our subject of the day, which is Shane Hornbeck. Say hello, Shane.
How you guys doing?
We're doing well. How are you today? You're up there in Kentucky, I understand.
Yeah, I'm up near Lexington, Kentucky.
Well, thanks for joining us. We wanted to get you on the phone because you've got such an incredible story and you've got a lot of information you can share with our listeners. But as a way to introduce it, give us a little bit of biographical data. You were in the service. What branch did you serve? What years did you serve?
I was in active Army, regular Army, from 05 to 08. I was stationed in Missouri, and I served in Iraq from 06 to 08 for 15 months.
Very good. And during your tour in Iraq, anything happen outside of the ordinary?
Yeah, I was shot by a sniper, which I received a Purple Heart for. My convoy was blown up by roadside bombs 12 times.
Wow.
And my company was the hardest hit company in the Iraq War since Vietnam. We lost more guys than any company since Vietnam. And
what was your unit? What unit were you assigned to?
First Infantry Division, Charlie 126, Charlie Company 126, First Infantry, 26th Regiment.
So your MOS is infantryman?
Yes, yeah, 11 Bravo, which is infantryman.
Well, thanks for joining us today. Now, you've had quite a journey since you left, since you discharged from service. Where exactly did you discharge at? Here stateside, what base did you discharge out of?
I got reassigned to Fort Benning, Georgia, which was my last duty station, and that's where I exited the military.
Okay. Now, as I said, you had quite a journey, and you're an accomplished young man based on some of the things you've done since leaving service. Just for the benefit of our listeners, before we get into some of your personal situations, you spearheaded an effort there in Oregon when you were living in Oregon. Tell us a little bit about this and how you impacted the legislature with this diversion program that you were behind.
Yeah, within my young adult life, I'm 24 years of age right now, and joined the military when I was 19 and got out when I was 23. And when I got out, I moved out west and started it in Seattle, Washington, originally just, looking for school. Was interested in the Art Institute in Seattle, and then I just kind of like a tumbleweed went with the wind and ended up in Oregon and really got involved with, that's where I found my calling, so to speak, and got involved with veteran services, and I hopped on board with an organization out west that was
do, and I can clearly see how well spoken you are. So you got to give yourself a pat on the back as well as us giving you one for your efforts, because you speak well for yourself and for your brothers and sisters. The situation was, number one, you suffered some service-connected disabilities, a couple of which I'm sure you don't mind us revealing is PTSD and also TBI, traumatic brain injury, based on all of the exposure you had in combat, correct?
Yes, it is.
And as a consequence to that, when you came back stateside, things didn't exactly go as you would have liked.
No, they did not. I mean, as soon as I got out of the military, I went back home and ruined relationships with my family and friends and started making really bad choices and got into alcohol and drugs and really trying to cover up the issues the symptoms that I at the time did not know, were symptoms of PTSD or TBI. And
things were just different, and you weren't able to assimilate back into society as maybe the general population thinks our warriors can. You had difficulty from the outset once you got discharged from service.
Exactly.
And it resulted in family troubles and some run-ins with the law.
Yeah, well, when I first got out, I got a DUI. That's pretty much, especially if you're into, alcohol, pretty much guaranteed, because poor decision-making is a symptom of PTSD, and when you mix that with alcohol, it's pretty much guaranteed that you're going to get a DUI. So I got the DUI, and then, it was just a snowball effect, and that was the beginning to a rough road, yeah.
So how did, Shane, this is Glenn, how did you finally end up making a choice or not making a choice, as the case might have been? How did you end up finally getting the right kind of help for you, and where did you get it?
I really found a lot of support within veteran service organizations, and personally, with just myself, personally, I found comfort and healing within speaking and sharing my story so that others can benefit from it. And, I started turning these negatives that were happening in my life into positives and really not only learning from them for myself, but, allowing others to learn from my mistakes or from my struggles and kind of teaming up with other individuals like Garren Glenn here and other organizations. I mean, that project has extremely, helped me out through not only my personal struggles, but my struggles with the VA and my disability claims. And I mean, that's an awesome. And so I'll give a pat on the back to you, Garren. You guys do an awesome job with that project, and that's where I found, that's where I was able to make different choices, was once I got involved with veteran service organizations.
Well, that's great to hear, and I want to foot stomp for our listeners out there. We're talking to a young 24-year-old Army combat veteran with Purple Heart, been wounded by a sniper, had his brain rattled on many an occasion, 12, I think that Shane said, and he's been able to find peace to head in the right direction and turn, as he says, negatives into positives by seeking out and getting help instead of sitting back and bottling everything up and letting it take care of you, as he was talking about with his earlier problems earlier on. So I'm really thrilled that you're on the show today and share this information, because I think this is exactly the right kind of way to get people to let go and get the right kind of help, because there is a way, a better path, and there is a way to get there. It just doesn't seem like it at the time when you come back and everything looks so strange and so different.
And we have to understand that this is not just this generation or even past generations. Shell shock, combat fatigue, otherwise known as PTSD in today's lexicon, has been going on for ages and ages, ever since men have been fighting. But to hear you say it, Shane, a person has to be willing to set aside the self-medication and the destructive behaviors and actually seek a different alternative and find some positive ways to deal with the catastrophic changes that occur after you've been subject to such a high level of combat. Yes.
Oh, I definitely agree. I personally believe that self-medicating, just from my own experience, is definitely not the way to go. I mean, you have wonderful doctors at the VA Medical Center that are there to help you, and yeah, you might go through some struggles with them, but I mean, they do know what they're doing, and they'll give you what you need, and I have to struggle with that, because the military trains you, you gotta be tough, not be weak, and you really gotta get over that and really just jump in with both feet and just surrender, okay, I do need help, I do need to be put on proper medication, and after you do that, after you surrender, it will get better. It's guaranteed, because personally for me it worked, and it's not going to be an overnight success. Rome wasn't built in a day, and I believe veteran-on-veteran therapy is a wonderful thing. You were talking about other generations of veterans suffering from the same thing that I am. Yeah, it had a different name back then, but you can still relate to them, and it's a little awkward, because it was different wars, but you're still suffering from the same, or with the same symptoms and from the same issues,
And it's got to be safe to say that you have your good days and your bad days, yes?
Oh, yeah. There's definitely, ups and downs. Life is a roller coaster in general, but after you go to war, it's like the top number one, like you see on the TV, the best road. Well, it could be the best roller coaster in the world if you make it. It's all in what you make it.
Sure. Now, suffering from PTSD, there's drug therapies and group therapy and things like that, and you found comfort in that, in the opportunity to share your story and invite others to get engaged as well. That's got to be one of the driving forces behind American Warrior Radio. We're reaching out to the listeners, or maybe they know somebody that is affected by PTSD or TBI, and the two of them often go hand in hand. We see a whole lot of vets. Yes, Glenn?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I had to train myself and get attuned to everything surrounding PTSD and what to look for and what the symptoms are, and maybe I have some of the symptoms. It's like any other thing in psychology. Sometimes if you study something, you think you end up having it. But be that as it may, I pick up older veterans, younger veterans. They come in and they don't realize it, but they're sharing with me all. I'm just, light bulbs are going on. Bing, symptom, bing, symptom, bing, symptom, and then I'm trying to ease in and say, you're sharing something that's more common than you think amongst your brother and sister veterans, and you might want to give some serious consideration to maybe go over and just have a chat over at the mental health clinic. It's nothing that makes you a crazy person, and I got to put you in a coat and all those kind of things. Especially the older veterans believe that if you let go, as you have talked about, Shane, that then they're going to end up in an insane asylum. So that's great.
But the stigma is still there.
The stigma's there, yeah.
Has
in their own mind, if nothing else.
Sure. Has that been your experience? You don't feel any less of a man for having PTSD, but to be carrying around a label, how has that affected you?
Well, the stigma behind it is what that's another big issue that we need to tackle. That alone. Within the eyes of the American people and the American population, it's these guys aren't, not all of them are, it's not a bad thing. Yes, it's a very bad thing, but it's, they shouldn't be condemned, and they shouldn't have to worry that I am going to be put in a straitjacket, or I'm going to be looked at like, okay, I can't carry a job because, I served this country, or, I have some issues with somebody standing behind me, big deal, but I'm getting help, as long as they're getting help, it's not a big, that's tough, that's a tough thing to say, to be looked at like it's help me out, Garren.
Well, like a scarlet letter. I mean,
a
like,
label or something printed on your forehead.
Yeah, and now is a good time to mention that on avetproject.org, for all those listeners out there, avetproject.org on the internet, click on the Facebook icon. It'll take you right to AVET Project's Facebook page, and under discussions, there's a great deal of information about symptoms and the way a person can address the issues that are facing them. But I encourage everybody to go to the avetproject.org, click on the Facebook, and go into the discussions area. You'll see all of the VA clinical guidelines, the Physician's Guide for Disability Evals, and it lists all the signs and symptoms that are men and women who are dealing with these issues after combat. And it's just a way to get engaged and learn about what's going on. So another important aspect of it is that there's a lot of filing that can be done online now. And one thing, let's talk for a moment, because this is another important reason I wanted you to share with our audience. You, based on being an advocate and a strong one, and like I said, you're very well spoken and we appreciate that. You're doing a fine job. But now come to find out, because you haven't been able to succeed in school, not that you didn't get good grades, but you had multiple headaches and other issues along with your PTSD affecting the ability to continue your vocational rehabilitation. So you've had lots of problems and things like this. You couldn't find work because either people wouldn't employ you based on, again, we're talking about that stigma. Oh, he's got PTSD and he's on medication. So you're in a rock and a hard place. You want to further yourself and you want to advance your own life, but you're coming across all these roadblocks. As a consequence, I recommended, and you subsequently filed for individual unemployability through the VA, which is where a person that, while they're not 100% schedularly disabled, they meet certain criteria. You happen to have those. It's a combination of disabilities at 70%, where one is at least 40% disabling, or a single disability 60%. Well, you fell within that, and you filed. What happened, Shane?
Well, I mean, after my endeavors on the West Coast and all the efforts that I did a tour of Oregon where I did a lot of public speaking, and I drove my personal car, volunteered my time to, go around to these events.
So nobody was paying you for this. You weren't on anybody's payroll. This was your own initiative.
Right. This was my own initiative, my own time. Nobody was paying me for nothing, and and it was over. I mean, I got into these veteran service organizations within like a 2-year period. You know what I mean? It wasn't just overnight. Okay, you're hired on. I mean, it was me looking for different organizations that I was interested in, and I got involved. And I did this tour of Oregon, and did a lot of public speaking, and a lot of the times, the first time I brought up anything that happened in Iraq, and not to mention that, and that from the hundreds of people. And so it really started bothering me and stuff. I mean, it wasn't an easy task.
But you were compelled. You wanted to fight through that.
Yeah, I fought through it, and I had a mental breakdown after the tour was over. I actually, withdrew myself from the whole scene of, raising awareness for veterans and stuff, and just to really focus on myself and get myself right again.
And Glenn, isn't isolationism part of the symptoms?
Oh, that's a classic, yeah. You betcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
And, well, a big one for me was geographics, moving around and running away from myself, trying to find the person I was before war. But I, I was doing that West Coast deal and really getting involved with veterans and stuff. And then when I filed the IU, the individual unemployability, it was used against me that I volunteered my time for veteran services.
So the VA denied your claim, and in a nutshell, in a single sentence, they said you're employable, when in fact there's absolutely no evidence that you are, other than the fact you faced your fears and you went out there on behalf of your brothers and sisters and brought a message, and were so effective at it that you even got a bill passed in the Oregon legislature, and now the VA has sought to hold that against you as if that was evidence that you were gainfully employable.
Right, and not to mention that, they don't know the inside story. They weren't there, I was having issues the whole time. I was having breakdowns, and I was my symptoms really like were amplified by speaking it all out. It was like the whole time, the 2 years from me getting back from Iraq and then me doing all this public speaking was like a bottle, like a soda pop. Like it was being shook up, and then speaking about it like pop.
Great analogy, man.
And and once that top was popped, it was I had to let the fizz come, wear down a little bit, and I really it took a lot to do that, and I was so taken back by reading that paper saying that you're denied because you volunteered your time to raise awareness for veterans. I mean, I tried to work. I mean, as soon as I got out of the Army, it wasn't but 2 weeks that I got a job as a manager at AutoZone, which is a great company. I mean, it takes a lot to get there, and they just hired me right on because of my military experience.
Sure.
But
it didn't last.
My symptoms kept me from, I wasn't even there a month. My PTSD and being around people and my, my drinking and my self-medicating and stuff like that, kept me from keeping that job. So I moved. And then I got it, for probably about the first year, I attempted to get jobs. But it was, maybe like about 4 jobs, like one every 3 months.
Glenn, how commonplace are what I would consider these arbitrary and capricious decisions? Are they becoming more so? Is it about static?
Well, it's about static. That's one of the more horrible examples I've ever heard of, because the VA's job is exactly the opposite of that, is to find a way to get your claim approved for you if there's any possible way. They have a duty to assist you with your claim, develop the claim properly, and get the right kind of evidence to approve it. And somebody ought to have a nice talk to those people that denied you there. But I don't know where your head is currently today on that issue. I know I would still be kind of PO'd probably, but I feel that when the DRO, the decision review officer, a different set of eyes and experience, a more experienced adjudicator than the idiot that looked at your claim, gets to Darren's excellent notice of disagreement that you're in good hands with Garren, and that you will prevail with the unemployability, because just in the short time I've listened to the background about you and from yourself, there's no doubt in my mind that this is a horrible decision, and fortunately I'm not seeing an overwhelming number of that or a trend in that direction. The VA's got a lot of new people on board, and I hope they're training them right, and we don't have a trend in that direction.
And unfortunately, the numbers of new hires within the VA are far outnumbering the veterans that they hire. There are a lot of guys and gals right out of college that don't have any worldly experience, let alone exposure to the trials and tribulations from being in combat and just being in the service. But the interesting thing is, and this is the point I want to make, and I've told you this as we've dealt with some of your situations in the past, the number one word here is perseverance. You simply can't give up. You have to power through, just as you did as you made those tours to change that law to help your brothers and sisters so they didn't end up getting arbitrarily thrown into the prison population. You have to have that same sense of courage and purpose, and have faith in yourself and those of us around you that are helping you, that you will persevere and you will succeed, because you will. I will make that guarantee. And we'll have you back on American Warrior Radio after we get that done, get this issue dealt with. But I just want to express to you my sincere thanks for your service to our country and the sacrifices you've made on behalf of this country in keeping down the terror threats. And you're such a well-spoken man. I know there are good things coming for you. You have to keep your head up as always. But Shane, is there one specific thought you could throw out to our audience regarding your situation and how you can overcome these problems?
Well, I mean, you said it. You summed it up with one word, but perseverance. You know, I always tell, you know, my slogan for myself and the people that surround me, you know, I always tell them, be driven, be forceful. You know, you gotta be driven to make a change, not only for yourself but other people, and then be forceful with it, because with the world today, you know, it doesn't come easy. You know, you gotta fight for it, just as our many veterans, you know, servicemen and women have done years and years before us. You gotta fight for it. You gotta be forceful. So be driven, be forceful.
Yeah, and Shane, as we get ready to close up the program today, I want to add in my personal sincere thanks to you, because what you're doing has so much value for fellow veterans out there across the ages, as I had mentioned earlier. And keep up the great work, and as Garren said, keep persevering, and it was great to talk with you.
Thanks for joining us today, Shane. We'll be speaking with you again, and best of luck to you. Stay in touch.
All right, Garren. Thank you all.
You bet. Folks, we have to share stories like this with you because it's important. We're going to bring more and more as time allows and as the program progresses. But we appreciate you listening. We want you to share this message. AVETproject.org. Click on the Facebook icon. Go to discussions. Lots of interviews. This will be on there as well. We encourage you to tune in every week at this time for American Warrior Radio. And as always, Glenn,
don't forget, thank a vet.
Awesome.
All right.
Good program.